Hey there, welcome to Data Humans, the podcast where I ask everyday data people what a career in data looks like for them. I'm your host, Libby. I hope you'll come with me on my journey as I learn how to podcast and as I learn what data looks like for as many different people as I can meet. Let's dive in. Well, so let's go ahead and get started. I really appreciate you being here with me and taking the time to talk with me, especially because you guys are in a heat wave.
Yeah, it's really hot here. Yeah.
Okay, are you in Vancouver?
Yeah, Vancouver, Canada.
You're in Vancouver. I wonder if it's hotter. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I wonder if
Oh,
it's
wow.
hotter in Vancouver than it is in Central Texas, South Central Texas.
Maybe for
Possibly.
the last week or so.
It was not, in fact, warmer in Vancouver than it was in San Antonio, to the surprise of no one. This is Kaitlin Bustos, a data science consultant. Today you'll hear us talk about what data consulting looks like for Kaitlin, her experience going through a data science bootcamp, which I was really curious about since I went the master's route, and more. Yeah, I'm really glad to have you on, and I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into analytics, right? Like, what did you want to be when you were a kid versus an analyst, right?
You're right. It's so interesting actually. When I was a kid, it's so funny because I actually remember talking to my dad about wanting to be a scientist. It was either a scientist or a doctor, but obviously when I was little, I didn't think data scientist at all. I was
Right.
the kind of
None of
thinking
us
like,
did.
yeah, like white lab coat maybe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the big moment, I actually realized this last night when I was looking at this question. Um, Ninth grade, or sorry, not ninth grade, 12th grade. It was like I was in math class and it was like 12th grade math, so not super easy, not super hard, but I remember that's when I was first introduced to calculus, and that was like the worst grades I've ever got in math, like through grade school.
Oh
And then
no.
our very
Was it
last,
pre-cal?
I think it was something along those lines, and I just wasn't good at it. And then I remember the very last unit was perms and comms, and everyone struggled so badly with that. But I remember getting like 90s, 100s, and I was so happy because I was like, okay, the whole rest of the semester I crapped the bed doing calculus. But so that was like a moment I realized I was good at like kind of the statistics side of things, but I didn't realize it then, obviously. Um, so
Yeah.
then I went to university for psychology and loved psychology, but I feel like I was missing. It was so qualitative. I was just reading books and books and books, and I was like, hey, I need like a math, a science, or something. So I ended up randomly taking a statistics class. I was like, oh, this is just like that perms and comms that I just learned like in 12th grade and I was really good at. So that was kind of the moment it clicked for me that I loved statistics. So loved statistics throughout my undergraduate degree. And then it was right after I graduated. I knew I wanted to do something with statistics. So I quite literally just Googled what careers can I get into that involve statistics. I saw data analyst. I still had no clue what like the data world was even like, but I remember applying to some data analyst roles on Indeed, thinking that I could do that just with my minor in statistics. Oh, so yeah, I ended up minoring statistics, majoring in psychology. But yeah, so I saw some data analyst roles, obviously got rejected. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, I can take a master's in statistics or biostatistics, or even, I don't even think there was like many data science masters. Even when I was looking, but there were like boot camps and stuff like
They're
that.
all pretty new. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine is pretty
everything.
new too.
Yeah, it's pretty new, right? So, yeah, I ended up reading about this boot camp. It had super high employment rate, like 99% become a data scientist in like 4 months. And I was like, this is perfect. I might as well give it a shot. This was 2020. That's when I graduated, and then COVID hit. There's no way I was getting a job. So I was like,
Right. We were
I'm
all
gonna
thanking like what are we going to do instead of getting a job? Because I also
exactly.
graduated in 2020 with my bachelor's and I was like, what now? Like the
Right?
world's
Like,
falling
what
apart.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I enrolled myself in this boot camp, and the rest is honestly history. After that, I started data science and I was like, this is exactly what I'm meant to do. And this is what I want to do for a very long time. So that's how I got there. And then did two data internships and then started my career as a data science consultant.
I'm over here shaking my head because this is the craziest story. I remember talking to you and hearing you say, I Googled what I could do with statistics. Like, I know I like
Mhm.
statistics, and data scientist came up. I remember just being like, that is the craziest thing because you've had this like really direct path
Mhm.
from school to job and like figuring out what you wanted to do. And that is not my story at all. I did not have my stuff together. I feel like you totally do. Is there anything else out there that you feel like once you have your career in data that you might like to go pursue? Like, do you think you would ever want to pursue the full-time like psychology route or
I don't
anything else?
know. So yeah, I actually did. This was like maybe a few months ago. I enrolled myself in a certificate that I haven't started yet, but it's a life coach certificate. So I think I still kind of have that like psychology, wanting to talk to people, helping people like bug somewhere within
You
me.
got like a
Um,
counseling gene in there.
yeah, there's somewhere, right? So I might do that as like a side hustle thing, but like other kind of career paths I could see myself even going into or transitioning into is definitely epidemiology and public health,
Mm.
like so, which
Mhm.
still involves data, lots of data, statistics, and stuff, but a little bit different. Um, I've always wanted to be like a professor, but I want to do that when I'm kind of like done my career and then like share everything I've learned through my experience to like undergraduate students or something like that. But pretty like
Nice.
keeping
I
it
love
pretty
it.
within the realm of yeah, psych and data
Psych and statistics. And
statistics. Yeah.
there's a lot of like experimental design in psychology and there
Hmm.
is, there is quantitative stuff in psychology. I think a lot of people do not realize that that's the case and a
Hmm.
lot of my friends who do psychology or sociology end up having a better grasp of experiment design than I did going through like my applied stats route. Um, I think that those things complement each other really, really
Oh, for
well.
sure.
Yeah, and I also remember you saying as we were talking the first time I met you, that you use R at work,
Hmm.
but that you don't use statistics at work. And I was
No.
like, oh, me too. Like I used R last year in my job, but I wasn't doing statistics. And I think a lot of people think R equals statistics. Like R was built for statistics, and that's what everybody uses it for. If you're using R, you're a statistician. And it's not true. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what your day to day has looked like on some of your consulting projects, because you're in consulting for anybody who's
Hmm.
listening and doesn't know. Kaitlin is in consulting as a data scientist consultant. Um, what does your day to day look like if you're using R but not doing statistics?
So for the particular project that I've been on for the past like year now, we basically use R for software development. Which is very cool, kind of coming from
Yeah.
academia, using R just for pure like statistical analyses, using it to actually develop like a pipeline software, which is essentially we're wrapping this software into an R package. So I guess I've been working on like package development slash software development within R
Hmm.
for this particular client, which is very cool. So yeah, my day kind of looks like debugging mostly. So yeah, we just
My
run
favorite
this
thing. I love debugging.
ginormous pipeline to analyze single cell sequencing data. And yeah, there's lots of bugs that come up because essentially what our team did was take probably like 10 to 50, probably way more, like 15 to 20-ish individual R scripts, and like make a whole unified framework to make that a package and a pipeline. Um, so yeah, basically refactoring code, debugging has been my life for the past
It's
year
kind
or
of
so.
like putting together a really big puzzle, huh? Like out of a bunch of
Exactly.
different pieces, bringing everything
Yeah,
together.
exactly.
And this
Because
isn't stuff
yeah.
that like you wrote. You're bringing stuff
Mm-mm.
in from the client, right? Yeah.
Yep. So a bunch of different scientists from a biotech company wrote all these different analysis scripts. We all got them, had to make them either run if they didn't run, um, or just make them more efficient, put it all together. And yeah.
I love it. I think there's a big misconception out there that R is kind of this like one and done tool where you can put some data in that's like static data and you can do some stuff on it and you can get some output. And it's really not that it's not that close-sighted, right? Like R can do
Hmm.
so many things. And obviously there are a lot of people doing crazy things with it. And I last year was working on Shiny apps. So again, it's kind of
Yeah,
like application development, not statistical tests. You're building something that is
exactly.
built to be used by somebody, right? Like in a pipeline or in a workflow or a procedure flow.
Yeah,
Very
shiny
cool.
development. Yeah, it has been a big part of my role actually as well. So everything,
Oh, really?
yeah. So my very first, so I had, so I've been with this company for about a year and a half. So, and I've had two clients within that time. The first one was a client within like the financial space, but we developed like a Shiny application just for their internal use, like investment forecasting. And then for this project that I just briefly explained, the whole refactoring, debugging, software development, there
Hmm.
was a Shiny app component to it. So when you finish the like UMAP step, there's a Shiny app where you can like go and visualize what that UMAP like plot like looks like.
What your output looks like? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, there's
I love
there's lots of
Shiny.
Shiny development and then app and yeah, software development. So I don't know if this is yeah, probably not your typical data science role, but that's the kind of the fun part when you are in consulting. It's always different, vastly
It's
different.
always something new. Yeah, and that's what I was
Hmm.
doing too, was consulting. I think data science is not one thing. And that's
Yeah, exactly.
the funny thing is that people look at it from the outside and they're like, "Oh, data scientists do this one thing." Like, no, data science is this like broad and multifaceted thing that is changing and growing all the time, and it's still so new as far
Hmm.
as like a singular profession with a name that who knows what it's going to be in 10 years. Like you said, when you were looking
Exactly.
for master's programs, you're like, it's kind of difficult to find a lot of options. There are definitely data science master's programs out there.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're, hiding or they don't exist, but
Hmm.
10 years ago, they didn't exist, I don't think,
Right.
at least not like they do now. Well, so you mentioned the data science bootcamp.
Hmm.
You decided to do that instead of getting another degree or instead of trying
Hmm.
to do stuff online yourself. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who are looking at those three options, like masters versus boot camp versus I'm going to brute force this on my own and I'm going to learn as much as I can online. And there are a ton of resources for free online.
Yeah.
So, what made you choose the boot camp route versus the masters? Because I'm sure you could find something that was a masters versus
Yeah, I
doing it
did.
on your own. And would you recommend that to people? Like, what type of people would you recommend that path for?
Mm. The master's
Because
path
like
or boot camp path?
the boot camp path, the path that
Yeah.
you went. For instance, I did the master's path, and
Right.
I know the type of person I would recommend my path for. It's not for
Mm.
everybody.
Right. So basically, the reason I chose a boot camp over a master's is solely actually because of my impatience. I didn't want
You're like chop
to do
chop.
school for 2 more years, and then when I saw that, you could get the same job that you would coming out of a master's with a boot camp, which is literally a quarter of the time, um, it just seemed like the right, like a logical option to me, especially if I really felt ready to start my career. I had just finished 4 years of undergrad. I wasn't super keen on going to do a master's.
Right.
I was like, I kind of want to get into the workforce, whatever that looks like. So that was my main kind of reason for choosing a boot camp was just it seemed like you could get the same result in a shorter amount of time. Um, and yeah, so I would recommend a boot camp pretty much to everyone, unless you want to do a master's and really be immersed within academia still. If you want to kind of stick with academia, I would do your master's, PhD within data science and all that good stuff. But I think if you're really just looking to be a data scientist within industry, um, boot camp is a great choice, especially if you're also transitioning. Most of the individuals in my cohort didn't just come from school, they were like transitioning careers from something else into data science.
And I think that you said the last time we talked that they offered other things altogether, like UX design and web design or web development, and that everybody kind of learned together, or at least were like together in some capacity and you
Yeah,
guys could interact. How did that work?
it was really awesome. And so I did my diploma at Brain Station. So yeah, they offer UX design, web development. I think they just actually came out with a software engineering stream, which is really cool. And then data science. So they do it very intentional to work like cross collaboratively, because they know that coming out of the program and into industry, that is how you typically work day to day is with a bunch of different teams. So they do that very intentionally, which I think is awesome. And how we do that, there was several like projects throughout the boot camp where um, you're just paired with these people and you basically mush all your skills together to create something. For example, we did a hackathon. So basically, I built this recommendation system. The UX design girl, she basically designed this whole app that we were making. The web dev basically prototyped that app. So that's kind of how we worked together. But it was a really good experience for sure, and
So you
really
kind of got to
mimicked what
simulate,
you see, yeah, in the industry.
yeah, getting to work with a team cross functionally and work on a project from end to end.
Hmm.
That sounds kind of amazing.
It was.
I feel like I got to work on a lot of things in grad school with team members, but there was a lack of deployment, right? And I don't think that that is the case with every program, but in an academic program, I think that there's a lot more focus on fundamentals and theory and
Hmm.
getting stuff right and really exploring results and everything. And there's a little bit less of a push on deployment and end-to-end development and stuff like that. It's up to
Exactly.
you on your own to go do that in a portfolio. So maybe a boot camp is a nice way to kind of get that grittier, like dirtier end-to-end experience,
Hmm.
which I will say if you are in a master's program, you might miss out on. I can't speak for every master's program, but
Yeah.
when you're given a static data set that's like semi cleaned and you don't have to do
Yeah.
too much cleaning, it's totally not real life.
Yeah.
Does not prepare you for the real world. Also, speaking of the real world, like you graduated relatively recently, past few years, you've been
Hmm.
working in data science. Do you feel like you've kind of been going through the projects and stuff, the consulting projects, and developing a sense of what you prefer to do and what you don't prefer to do, like developing a sort of North Star that you think, like, okay, as I'm moving forward, I want to do less of this and more of this?
Yeah, I have, but I feel like it's confused me a little bit more. Like,
Oh, no.
um, yeah, so like
In what way?
in the sense that it's like there's a lot of it's actually it's really interesting. So I've kind of done a few things within my company, but um, none that stuff that's very cool and I've learned a lot, but nothing that I'm like super, super passionate about. Like my client work, it's super cool. It's such a great opportunity to work with these clients and the skills I'm learning, it's unmatched. But it's to be honest, it's not some I don't want to do client work for the rest of my life. So that's for something for sure
Right.
that I've realized. So it's made me more confused in the sense it's like, okay, I want to be in data science for sure, but I don't want to do client work for the rest of my life for sure. But what think I've found is I just like doing my own data science projects and
Yeah.
really bringing my ideas that I have because I feel like all day, every day, I'm just thinking like I just look at like a traffic light or something. I'm like, okay, how can that be more optimized? Or how can people walk the road, cross the street faster? You know what I mean? So I feel like I found that I'd love to kind of bring my own ideas to fruition with data science. So that is like the most defined North Star I have so far. But that's kind of the area I'm leading to. So honestly, I guess you could say that's kind of like entrepreneurship, in a way. So
Yeah. Or
we'll
even
see.
like you were saying, the possibility of exploring something like public health, taking
Mhm.
your data science skill set and moving into an area where you can have some really applied results or feedback, or feel like you're doing something that has tangible results in the real world. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been thinking about the same thing. I've been thinking about possibly moving into the public health, area, or into biostatistics, something where I feel like what I'm doing has a tangible effect on the real world and I'm helping real people, because it can feel like you're really removed from the results that you are creating or the
Mm-hmm.
decisions that you're helping when you're doing something like I have been in banking and insurance and things like that my whole life, and it just feels very, very disconnected from
Yeah,
real people in the real
exactly.
world. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a very nosy question,
Okay.
because when I listen to people on podcasts with
Mm-hmm.
impressive job titles that completely intimidate me because it sounds like they do cool things, I always think like, oh my gosh, I bet that they know everything. Like that person knows so much more than I know. So, what is one skill or experience that you actually lack? Like for me, I was just
Mm-hmm.
saying, scaling and deploying things is not my area. It's not somewhere where I have a ton of experience because I have more academic experience. Even though I have deployed things, I wouldn't sign up for a job and say I have like 5 years of experience deploying data science solutions. So I've never deployed anything beyond like a Shiny app.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, what sort of experience would you say that you're actually lacking? Like someone might assume that I have this,
Mm.
but I don't.
That's such, honestly, this is so funny because it's something that I do every day, but I still don't necessarily feel up to par. And that is honestly coding. To be completely
Really?
honest, yes, which is very surprising. Like, yes, yeah, I code well, but I think the time it takes me to code is kind of ridiculous. I'm very slow at coding, and it's actually so frustrating to me because it's not that I don't know what to code, I don't know what to do, um, but I feel like I don't even my brain works in data science, I swear, and like and within logic. Um, so I know exactly what I need to do, and I know exactly what code will do it. It's just actually piecing that together. So honestly, I think it might even be just a matter of me going back to like the coding fundamentals. I'm sure that would actually help me a lot because even this actually might even be a downside of the boot camp is we learned it very fast. So if you didn't kind of
Yeah.
like, so I learned kind of Python like super, super fast. Even R, I learned pretty fast. And R for data science, I learned fast, not really R for statistics. But um, yeah, so I think maybe that had an impact on why I'm so slow at coding or something. Um, but yeah, that is definitely a skill that I do really want to improve, like kind of how fast I can code and stuff like that. But
I feel like
yeah,
that you're probably not actually alone in that. And
yeah,
I feel like coding is a skill where a lot of people think that if you can code, then you're a master coder. But I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people code day in and day out and they use like 1/100th of the abilities of like a really, really crazy master coder, and they do just fine.
exactly.
Like I can do the daily things that I need to do with just like an ounce of coding skill, because as long as you know how to do the things that you need to do, you can kind of Google the rest. And sometimes that will take me a long time. Like coding will take a
Hmm.
long time because maybe it's something that I haven't done in a while and I have to go Google every single thing because yeah, it's just been like 6 months since I've done this thing and now I have to go like find a piece of code in some other file because I know I did this at some point. I don't think you're alone. I think that that's probably a
Yeah,
shared existence
maybe.
of
Hopefully,
like
hopefully,
I'm not
because
a
it's
master
something,
coder.
yeah, so it's something that I'm like, hey, should I be? Like, I've even brought it up to, I think my boss before. I forget what he said, but yeah, it's something that's kind of on
Like
my
should I
mind
be
a
a better
lot.
coder?
Yeah, should I be better at this? Because it's something I do literally every day. But honestly, it probably took me just very recently, I've had to stop Googling like how to read in a data frame, which is hilarious. It's just like you forget
Yeah,
sometimes.
no.
But I
Oh
think what
boy.
is really
I do the same
important
thing
though,
all the time.
like the most important thing is that you know what you can do with coding and like you know you can whatever you want to do, you can do it. It's just a
Right.
matter of writing the code.
Right. And figuring it out. That's
Hmm.
what I tell people whenever they ask me, like, oh, how do you get through a coding interview? And they're asking all these things that you don't know how to do. I'm like, well, nobody knows how to do everything.
Hmm.
I just say, like, okay, well, here's what I know how to do. And here's where I know to find the answer if I hit something I don't know how to do. It's
Hmm.
perfectly legitimate and fine to not know from your brain all the time how to do
Yeah,
everything. Because when you code with people who are way, way senior, you watch them mess up syntax and have to Google it all the
all the
time. Like,
time. Hmm.
it would be totally inefficient for us to try to shove everything in our brain and hold it there when it's right there in Google, or it's right there in a piece of old code or a code snippet in RStudio that you can just pull and use, and you don't have to think so incredibly hard all the time to just code everything perfectly. Because I'm coding in R, I'm coding in Python, going back and forth between things. Right now I'm taking a computer science course where I'm like doing a little bit of coding in C, and I'm having to
Oh, whoa.
do things in different syntaxes, right? Like, you can't
Uh-huh.
hold that all in your brain at all
Oh,
times. You just have to
I
trust
know.
yourself.
I know switching between R and Python is something I've had to do a lot in my role. Um, and it's just like, what is going on? But
I know. I don't hate Python, but I'm definitely happier when I'm coding in R. And sometimes when
same.
I'm working in Python and I'm using pandas, I'm like, "Ugh, I wish you were R. This is so
Yeah.
frustrating." But at the
Yeah.
same time, Python's great for what you specifically need to do sometimes. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hate on Python. I might hate on SAS a little bit sometimes, but
Yeah.
I won't
Yeah.
hate on Python. Well, so I asked you nosy questions about things that you feel like you're lacking. Do you have any questions for me before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah. I feel like you're very involved in the data science community, which I absolutely love because I want to get more involved and continually be involved in it. But what is your favorite part about, honestly, data science in general? Like, what is your favorite part and why?
Um, is it cheating to say the community? I love the community.
I know
I
it's
really
that's one of
like
my favorite parts too.
I really like feeling like I found my people, because
Yeah.
for a long time in my life I felt like I wasn't sure where I belonged. Like, I came to college late. I came to kind of like figuring out a cohesive career later in my life. And just like that moment where I realized in my statistics class that, oh my gosh, statistics is for me. Finding my people has also been a really, really fun experience, because for a while I was really, really intimidated by people in data science. And I would hold myself back from attending community events because I really just felt like I didn't belong. And when I started attending the RStudio Data Science Hangout, I think the first time I attended, I just kind of sat there and listened, and I didn't turn my camera on. I didn't say
Oh.
anything. I didn't type in the chat. I probably attended 2 or 3 weeks, and I just like sat because I was so terrified. And then I began forcing myself to kind of ask questions, even if they were dumb. And I swear, if you go back and watch Data Science Hangouts on YouTube, there's probably like little clips of me asking the stupidest questions,
Oh.
but I just wanted to like reach out and do it. And that was
Mhm.
transformative for me.
Exactly.
The kind of push. Yeah. And Rachel, the RStudio community manager, I think that she messaged me at one point on LinkedIn and just said hi, just like made a human connection with me. Like, hey, I saw that you attended. Thanks for attending. I hope you attend again, or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, the the power of that engagement inspired me to be a little bit more engaged myself. Um, and I really, really love encouraging people to do things, because I feel like the path that I took was very like squiggly and roundabout and all over the place. It was not direct and amazing like yours was. And I was just like full of self doubt the whole way. So if I can encourage people through the community, that's what I would like to do. And that's part of why I started this podcast, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's just talk to normal people about normal stuff and talk about our insecurities a little bit.
Hmm.
Not the whole time, right? You don't have to focus on your insecurities all the time, but
Yeah.
focusing on being real in data science in this community, because I think we're all a little bit more intimidated by each other than we have any right to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're all normal, and we all have like skills and deficits that complement each other. Honestly, that's what data science is about to me. I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and we
Mm-hmm.
can all like move forward together. So that's my favorite part. I'm gonna cheat and say
Yeah.
that's it, because I do love the science, but beyond all of that, there's this like beautiful community out there of
Exactly.
people like you. And that's how we met, for anybody listening. Kaitlin and
Yeah.
I met through the RStudio Hangout. Well, Kaitlin, I really, really appreciate you talking to me in a heat wave. It's actually Labor Day holiday over here, so it's
Here
like
too,
I'm sure nobody else is working. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys have Labor Day holiday today.
Yeah, we do.
In
Yeah,
Canada,
so,
do you?
Yeah, so day off.
Sometimes we have matching holidays, Canada and the
Yeah.
US, and sometimes we do not. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for talking to me.
too.
If anybody wants to see what Caitlin's up to, you can go follow her on LinkedIn, I think.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you want to plug, like a Twitter or anything?
No, honestly, LinkedIn
No.
is like my most active.
Okay, me too. I'm shamelessly not a Twitter person. I have a Twitter handle,
Yeah.
but no, please nobody tweet me. I won't see it.
Same.
All right, Kaitlin, thanks so much. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. This podcast is brought to you by Libby Heron, that's me, and a whole lot of time, fear, doubt, and a little bit of laughter. Have a good one.